In this episode, we're going to talk about gesture, a quick way to start a painting.
These are gestures, an expressive movement of the body. As artists, we try to capture that movement on the canvas as quickly as possible. This method is fast and loose.
Gestural paintings are short. A good way to practice these paintings is to give yourself a time limit. That time limit, you'll want to get the most important ideas down. We'll be using the figure as our subject matter.
The most important ideas to get down are an indication of the entire figure and the line of action. The line of action is essential to the gesture of the figure. In this example, we see Padawan Brett swinging his lightsaber. In addition to getting the whole figure, I want to stress the tension of his muscles being used to complete the action, such as the rotation of his torso, swinging arms, and stance.
For this episode, we're going to strike a gestural pose and model for each other. If you don't have someone that can model for you, find a picture of a figure in action, an athlete, a dancer, or a model are all great examples. We're each going to paint the same model 3 times in 2-minute, 1-minute, and 30-second increments. Set your timers. Go.
Wait! Okay, really fast before you start painting. You'll need 1 sheet of 18 by 24 inch paper divided into 4s. For paints, use white and a dark color paint. Okay, go.
It's painting time!
Hey everyone, I'm here in the studio today and I'm going to show you how to do our gesture painting. As you can see, I have my handy dandy, very one-of-a-kind palette here and some really simple materials to get us started. First I have white, straight out of the tube, and a nice dark value. I've picked purple, straight out of the tube as well. And then I'm going to mix them to get a mid-tone to get us started for today. Okay, you'll see that I have mixed a nice medium tone there. It's kind of like a lavender, white and purple. And in gestured painting, I really want to make sure that I'm fluid, gestural, nice and smooth lines. So to help me with that, I'm going to add just a little bit of water to that kind of mixed section of paint here that I have. And that should be enough for at least this first one. If you remember correctly, our first gesture painting is going to be about 2 minutes. And so we want to start that timer. Brett, if you want to get me started on that, and then let's go ahead and get to painting.
Don't tell me what to do.
Okay, so my 2 minutes has started. My first task is to get the whole figure down as much as possible and refer to a line of action. Line of action kind of means it's just what are the muscles being used in the gesture itself. So what I'm gonna do with that mid-tone is identify kind of like where the head is and then get this sort of line of action of the arm and the body sort of down. So I have a real basic just form of the gesture itself. Then I'll go back in with some midtones, get a little more of the shapes in once I've established that. Again, detail is not important. We're going off of shapes and gestural quality of the figure. So I've kind of overestimated a few of these, but just going back in and reestablishing the lines that I like and maybe omitting or not going over lines that I don't like. So I kind of have a blob right now since I've used my mid-tone. Now I'm going to clean my brush off really quickly or use a different brush, that might be easier. And let's go in with the darker value. And then I'm gonna look at my source photo here and establish the darker areas of the painting, of the gesture that stick out and start to make sense. And once you've done that with both the shadow and the highlight, the form itself will start to appear. And again, it's supposed to be fast and loose, gestural painting, nice and quick. You want to make sure you're not concerned about details and you're really just going in, thinking of value and form. Where does the light fall on the actual person themselves. Right, so it's starting to come into something. My assistants here are telling me I'm almost done. I'm gonna add tiny little details and we're good. All right, so I have my 2-minute gestural painting here, and there's some really funky stuff about it, but there's some stuff that's salvageable, so I'm gonna try and bring that into my 1-minute gestural painting as well. I think the biggest issue I had is that I went too long with that mid-tone, so I'm gonna try and make that a little quicker this time around. So again, a nice fluid mid-tone paint here, and then I'm gonna start my 1-minute timer, and let's go. Okay, so again, using the reference photo is the most important thing. Getting down that line of action, right? Kind of in that zigzag position there. And once I have my mid-tone in, I have to remember I'm only doing 1 minute. Once I have my mid-tone in, then I'm gonna go a little darker and a little lighter and hopefully build some form as I'm going. So we have nice dark areas here, under the arm. Sometimes it helps me to narrate exactly what it is that I'm painting. So this pickle jar, right? Sometimes that helps me just to sort of organize where things should be and understand where I'm going with it. I'm gonna go a little lighter now too, trying to remember that I only have 1 minute as I go. A few more seconds for some highlight here. This side of the knee is a little shinier. Okay. Down there on the bottom, trying to get a little bit of that hand. And we're at our 1 minute. All right, you'll see the difference between these two. There's a little more detail in this one, believe it or not. And this one's a little sloppier, but what's most essential and what I'd like to kind of point out is the line of action. And what I mean by that is what muscles or what is the most essential part of this pose. We kind of have this almost like lightning bolt shape going on from head to toe here. I would consider that and the extension of the arm to be the most vital part, or the line of action. What muscles are being used as he's making that pose. So in my 30-second rendition, which I've gone a little smaller on my brush because I've noticed that I think my brush marks are a little too big. So I'm going a little smaller. I've mixed a little more of the mid-tone paint, and I only have 30 seconds, so I have to go really fast to get down that line of action and the most essential parts of the figure. So 30 seconds, a little water in that mid-tone paint, and here we go. Okay, again, head to toe is the goal as I'm going, getting those essential parts of the figure down. If I have time to go in a little darker on some areas and a little lighter on some areas as well. I'm going really fast and mixing over, but I've got my 30-second gestural painting. Okay, so we have our 3 gestural paintings now. We have 2 minute, 1 minute, and 30 second. They are all incredibly beautiful, wonderful pieces of art. But what you really want to focus on is that they're not supposed to be detail oriented. They're supposed to be very fast, very loose, and get down the essentials. And for the most part, I think I've done that. We talked about that line of action from head to toe, that essential movement from each is in each of these paintings, whether it's 2 minutes, 1 minute, or 30 second. Don't be discouraged if it doesn't look beautiful. You're working on this new skill.
Now for our segment.
Art Soul.
Welcome back to Art Soul. Today I am your host, Mustafa. To my left is Brett, and to my right is Polo. Today we're gonna cover gesture and line of action, and we're gonna give it to Polo, who has a lot of experience as a teacher in being able to explain this, because I suck at this. Go ahead.
Yeah, all of the experience over here. Just kidding. So when I refer to gesture and line of action, it's really simpler than it seems. Your eyes do all the work to begin with, and as artists, our eyes do all the work. So if we were to look at this picture of Brett, the football player, however you want to qualify it, line of action for me is what is the most essential parts of the pose. And if you were to draw a line from start to finish of where those most essential parts of the pose are, it would go for this figure kind of in this lightning bolt shape. And then there's this really important sort of jutting out of his hand, right? Those are the things that my eye goes to first. And I really want to make sure I capture when I'm doing my gesture. And so when I did my actual 2 minute, 1 minute, and 30-second gesture paintings, you can see that those parts were emphasized in each one. And I was able to establish a little bit of the form with the light and the dark, but I got down the essential parts of that gestural pose.
Yeah, and I like the lightning bolt shape that you described, because when you, at least for me, like a really quick thing to see like the form of something really quickly is to just sort of squint my eyes, and you can sort of see like Brett breaks down into this like lightning bolt shape with his arm reaching out, and in every one of Polo's paintings, he captures that motion really well. Polo, are there areas that you feel like you could improve, or maybe you think really work well for the gestures?
When I think of gesture, I mean, this 30-second one is actually probably, I guess, my favorite, just because it has that quality of motion, and that's because of the size of the brush is nice and small, and the sort of messiness to it. So I think I would have, in the longer poses, more time doesn't mean that I need to be actively painting more. So if you see like the difference between these two, I got just as much information, if not more, down in 30 seconds than I did in 2 minutes. So less is more sometimes. So I feel like I would maybe be a little more editorial, especially if I had a longer time on them.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, who knows?
Maybe. Brett, tell us about your gestures, and same questions. What are areas of improvement and areas that you think really work for them?
Sure. Before though, I just want to point out one thing. I hate pickles. But I would protect pickles in that jar. Well, I'd probably just drop them if someone wanted them. I don't know. Okay.
I love pickles.
Too.
Well,
yeah, not
we both love pickles.
So you're stealing our pickles?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's what happened.
Keeping us away from the pickles.
Yes. Yes. I think during this process, the quicker poses, I was, for whatever reason, able to tune in a little bit better to what was going on. For whatever reason, I think I fell into that trap. I had more time, so I kind of started manipulating things a little bit more than should be. Like in this 2 minute one, where, you know, look at the 30-second one, you kind of have these very strong brush marks doing all the heavy lifting, and it's not overworked. It's kind of to the point, which is more, I think, of the essence of gesture that we wanted to get at. So I see a lot more things happening in here that are successful, even though it just looks like a brush mark. Having the extra paint on the brush mark, you could even see different tones in one brush mark. So I felt that was where things were a lot more successful.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do like that when you really just like looking at this and then looking quickly back at this, how this is just such a quick breakdown of this, and yeah, it was a really good example of a gesture painting. For me, you know, I'm so used to painting from photographs, and I work. I understand the idea of getting something down quickly. You know, I've had a lot of training in that, but sort of capturing movement, that's never been a strong aspect of mine because I'm just not as well practiced in it. And so really, I took a lot of notes from what Polo was saying, and Polo did such a great job, you know, as you can see in the video, demoing it. And for me, when I was thinking of movement, I was really looking at Polo in his dance and his sway of how his arms flow and then his legs flow. And I tried to capture that sort of like the hip, the side of the hip to swinging into the arms in each one of them. And you can see that in the painting where I had more time, the 2 minute one, I was able to modulate the values a little bit more and have more of them as you get to the very last one, whereas Polo and Brett really liked their 30-second ones. I hated it. And you can see that they were just, it was quick brushstroke that
Very apparent.
very apparent. Yes, I agree. I agree.
I have a question. Was the dance seductive at all?
Post in the comments, let us know. Was it seductive? Was it not seductive? Like the video if it was seductive, and then share the video if it wasn't.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Art Soul. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. You know what to do. It's YouTube. Just do the thing. Bye. Action.
Wait! No. Wait! Wait! This is real, I'm actually out of breath, because I've done this 5 takes. Really fast, you'll need 1 sheet of 18.
That's all she wrote!